Hey guys, welcome to another Nerdy Monday. If you recall, if you've been following us, we've been on a kind of track of Nerdy Mondays, specifically talking about or training about SharePoint. And so, what we're going to do is just going to follow along with that series. Again, Nerdy Mondays is really just about technical stuff, nerdy stuff. And we're just in a series right now with just specifically about SharePoint training. So, we're just going to continue that and we're going to get right into it. I have my colleague here, Jai, who is basically a novice, and actually, it's a perfect opportunity to talk to you real quickly, Jai. I've been, trying to think about how to tell you this.
Sure.
I've had sleepless nights about
Break the
it,
news. Break the
and
news.
I don't know if I should break it to you now or maybe
Come
wait another
on.
time.
Stop. Stop your nonsense, man.
All right, so here it is. Here it is. It's not Novice, it's Novice. So in the
Okay.
last couple of videos, you've been saying Novice, and I just never bothered to correct you. I just figured it was a one-time event, but in a couple of videos,
No comment, man.
you
No comment. Making fun
you
of
just kept saying.
Making fun of the Nigerian in me now. It's all good.
I just felt I had to
Anyway,
tell you, especially given your previous confession. Again, if you guys want to know what I'm talking about, go to another podcast. It'll be a link. I'll provide the link
yep.
where you talked about your black tooth and how nobody told you.
Oh, that
So I
was
just
fun
felt I
times.
didn't want
Fun
to get on
times,
your
man.
bad
Fun
side.
times.
I wanted to be your friend that you truly believe in, and I
You
wanted to
know
tell
what?
you.
It's fine. It's fine. I forgive you. You know, I'm sure I'll get you with
Okay.
something as well, right? So it's all good. It's one
So
nothing. I'm counting
no
the scores.
novice.
You're
No
gonna slip up. Don't worry.
novice.
I'll get
Not
you.
novice.
I'll get you back.
Jai, focus. Novice, not novice. There's no such thing as
Okay.
novice.
Are you sure about that? Are you sure?
I
Have we
looked it
checked the
up in the
British?
dictionary.
Yeah, but have you checked the
Oh, the
British?
British. Well, we ain't British, brother, so
But
it's
I was
irrelevant.
raised in the British system. What are you talking about? Nigeria is a
Either
British
way,
colony.
it's not novice, it's
Okay.
novice.
All right. Cool.
Chat, if I'm wrong,
we'll,
please let
we'll
me
agree
know.
we'll agree to disagree.
What do
How's
you mean
that?
disagree? It's fact.
It's not fact. It's not fact.
Go,
Are you
go,
go
go
okay?
look at.
Are you going to go against the inventors of the language? The English invented the language, not the Canadians or the Americans.
All right, you know what, man? Let's just skip this over with.
Pull it up.
Let's
Pull it up. Pull up.
grammar novice.
Pull up.
Grammar word novice.
Pull it up. There
Let's
you go.
see. Let's
Let's see
see.
who's justified.
Novice.
Let's see who's
How do we
justified.
find
How's it?
something?
Well,
Something that says
you can do the Google.
pronunciation?
Yeah, the Google, just Google Translate.
You can see my screen now?
Yes, I can.
Are you ready?
hmm
Novice.
Novice, okay. But that's the American
You kept
pronunciation.
saying novice.
Okay, check the
Novice.
British. Check the British pronunciation then.
Oh my goodness. All right. Okay. Okay.
Novice.
But we're not British.
I'm done.
It's American.
I'm done. I'm done.
No,
I'm done.
it's novice,
I'm done.
not
I'm done.
novice.
I'm
Novice.
done. I'm done. I'm done. At least you could see that
Novice.
I'm done.
Okay, so why? Okay, if what you're saying is right,
hmm
why is every other
No, no, no.
word you're
It's not what
saying
I'm saying
is
is
fine?
right. It's what I mean. It's right there. It's what the fact says. It's not what Jai is
Novice.
saying. The British
I'm
Novice.
just
called
saying
it
you're
Novis.
every other
So,
word you're saying sounds American, except for that.
well, some words I'm going to pronounce based on
Novice.
how I was taught
Novice.
growing up, and some words I'm going to pronounce based on what I've learned growing up. So it's going to be a
Uh-huh.
mixture.
Okay, give me another word, real quickly.
Let's see. I mean, this is part of Nerdy Mondays anyway, so we're learning.
There you go.
Let me see. I'm just trying to see what word can I think of. Um,
We could always edit out our pausing.
yeah. Calendar.
I'm trying to think of, pardon?
Calendar. How do the British pronounce calendar?
Calendar?
Yep.
Okay. But I've never heard you say calendar. That's the problem. I was looking for a word that I've heard you say
Yeah.
that is British oriented,
Calendar.
which is I'm normal.
Calendar.
And so that sounds normal as well. But what
But
I'm trying to say is you
if I
don't
had
have a
said
British accent.
if I had said calendar, you would have said, "What are you talking about?"
No, I wouldn't have.
Yes, you would.
No.
Okay.
The word novice was just out of nowhere. Like it
Okay.
was just like, what are you saying?
I'm trying to think of one that I always get corrected on. Can't
Novice.
think of it right now.
But you're lucky.
Novice.
You vindicated yourself on this
Dude,
one.
man, I always knew. You know what? That's why I didn't. That's why I was
But
laughing because I'm like,
Novice.
this dude, man, this dude. But
Novice.
hey, it is what it is, man.
it's pronounced novice. I'm just saying
Okay.
American.
Okay.
And everything else you say is American oriented. You don't have a British accent
Okay.
on anything else that you say.
Say the word gas.
Gas. Okay.
Gas.
British.
No, because the Jamaican accent you came
Gas.
out, you said gas, not gas. You
What?
pronounce it GY.
Gas.
Yes. Maybe I was saying galas. I don't know.
No, that's why I said gas.
Gas.
Because I always get
I
my
don't.
wife to say
Well,
this as well. And she always slips
Jamaican.
up. It's gas.
Jamaican.
There's no
I didn't think that would work. I
no,
was
it
thinking
wouldn't.
there's
Yeah,
a
it wouldn't work.
Jamaican version.
It wouldn't work. It wouldn't work.
Oh my goodness. Okay, all right. Anyways, it's novice, not novice.
Okay.
If you're talking in America,
Okay.
and we're doing a podcast that's predominantly probably American-based audience, so
Okay.
please fix your language, brother.
Novice.
Okay. Definitely will
Okay.
continue to say the word novice.
All right, everybody. All right. So after
How's it
our
going?
teaching, I have to admit, Jai did get me on that one. I'm convinced he's still saying it wrong, but you know what, in the comments, and we have proof there are other people across the pond that are saying it the way that Jai says it. I at
Peace
first I
up to
thought
my
Jai was
Nigerian
completely
brothers,
crazy,
man. It's novice.
but he did vindicate himself. So
Oh man.
I'll retract my win. I'll retract my win on that one. I'm not. It's not an
This
L.
guy's
It's not an L on my side,
it's not a W
but I'll
either.
retract. Exactly. I will concede. Darn it, I should have checked. But I saw that. I saw this and I was
Novice.
like, I know I'm right. Because I was like, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he's right. And the way that he's saying is the actual. So I did this and I was like, nope,
Novice.
that's not how Jai's saying it. But you know what? I did not check the British version.
Novice.
There's nothing else you say that sounds British. But anyway,
Kevin.
I'll let it go. I'll let it go.
Kevin's trying to get me. Good
I'll
try.
take
Good
the
try.
L. I'll take the L. I'll take the L. All right. All right. So, again, welcome everyone. Nerdy Mondays. We're back on track and we are talking all about SharePoint. So, where we left off, we were in a SharePoint site and we're kind of going through the anatomy. And so, I'll just remind you guys how to get to SharePoint. If you guys are following along and you have your own tenant and everything, that's great. We were basically going to show how to get to SharePoint.
Mhm.
So log in to your environment and then go to your waffle, then go to SharePoint, and then that'll load the dashboard. So again, you're not in SharePoint just yet. You're basically in a dashboard that shows you all of your sites that you've created. And then here is our, which one did we create first?
And we created a communication
Ted
site
Jai.
first.
No, it was a team site. So this was
Oh,
created
sorry,
automatically.
the team site. The team site is the basic one, yeah.
Yeah.
Not the basic,
Yeah.
but the more common one.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and then this is the first site. We use the I forgot which template we use, but I think it was a project-oriented template. But this is our first site, and last video or podcast, we just basically talked about the anatomy. And so what we wanted to do today is just kind of get into the document libraries and list libraries. So, and I think Jai was really, really excited to get to this part, but then I had to cut it short. So, how do we get to a document library? A couple of ways. You can go through the left-hand navigation, which is here. You can click here, click on document library. Or another way is you can go up to the gear icon and then left click, and then you'll get to the settings, flyout menu, and then you can click on site content, and you'll get to basically a content section, and then you can click on documents there, and that'll take you to the document library. And then in this template, so if we want to close that, just X out of it, close the pane. And in this template, what they've done is by default, they've created a document library web part. Now, what a web part is, a web part is basically a piece of code or a function that is available to SharePoint. So in a sense, think of it like widgets, if that makes it even better. But it's basically compartmentalized pieces of code that you can mix and match and put on the page, specifically the content area. So all this area that I'm highlighting or kind of encircling, this is the content area on your SharePoint page, and this is where you can add web parts. So this is a web part, this image, and then the text on the right, a web part or widget. This is another web part widget. This is a document library web part widget. And then these are quick links. And again, it's another web part widget. But again, we're focused on document libraries, so I'm not going to get into that detail. We'll cover widgets and web parts in another full session.
Good
Okay,
question.
so those are basic. Yeah.
Good question. So the widgets are more like fragments, in a way, where it's like I wouldn't call it, well, I said fragments, but I'm thinking of something where you can drop. So when I'm thinking widgets, I'm just thinking of items where you can drag and drop, and then the items get configured as you want it. So if you look at a
Mhm.
typical website where, or not even a website, but you're building something, and then there's items on the website where you can drag, just like Visio, right? Where you
Right.
drag a particular object into the Visio, say for instance, you're drawing a diagram and you have the object and you have the swim lane. You can drag an object into the swim lane. So is that how the widget functions? You just drag and drop, and then it just basically gives you that form in which you're looking for the action or the task.
Yeah, in a sense. I think the Visio analogy is interesting, but it's not wrong.
Okay.
I figured you'd have something a little simpler than that, but I can't think of anything better, so that's actually just fine. So yeah, real quickly, again, not to get too off topic, when you go into edit mode, which I just did, you can, just like what you said, you can move them around. So if I had this widget, if I can get to that, right, I can move it around,
Gotcha.
right?
Okay. Yeah.
So
That's
I
what I
can move
was
it over
that's why
here.
I wanted to use the Visio analogy, because it's something that you can move around. But for
That's
those of
right.
you who haven't used Visio, it's basically this. Maybe what I could have said is PowerPoint.
I think it's
Yeah, no.
fine. I think your
Yeah,
analogy's
yeah, yeah,
fine.
yeah, yeah.
But
Okay.
um, but yeah, so you can move it around, mix and match, things like that. Okay. Once again, we're not focused on what parts today. We're focused on document library. So I'm going to close this. Just discard all my changes and revert back. That's fine. And then we're back to normal. Okay, so those are the ways to get to document libraries. I can continue on. And so for now, we'll just click into from the left nav and then click on document libraries. And basically, this is a document library. This is probably the most important thing in SharePoint. This is where your documents are housed. This is where the content types exist. This is where the metadata exists. This is where the attributes, the columns, everything is in a document library. So it's probably the most important part of SharePoint. It's a place where you're gonna work in the most. This is how you're gonna interact and collaborate and work with documents and information. Next most important library would be the list library, and we'll get into that a little bit later if we have time. We may not because document libraries are just so big. So first off, you have your default columns, so name, modified, etc., etc. If you ever wanted to add a column, you can just add it from here, or you can add it into whenever you're in a document library. This navigation, if you click up to the gear icon, you'll have an option to go to library settings, and then if you go to library settings, you can, and then it'll ask you, it'll bring up a pane, and then you can change the name of the document library if you want, add a description. But more importantly, you could also go to more library settings. What this will do is it'll bring you to the library settings page. And here you could also add new columns. You could also add views. Quickly, what a view is, it's a way for you to organize data or documents in SharePoint or document libraries that are to your liking. So let's say, for example, you have a bunch of documents that are PDF and there's several documents that are Excel. If you wanted to just only see the PDFs, you can create a filter in the view, and then you can set that view as, whatever you can set it. So you
PDF
can
or Excel.
basically say this is PDF only view, or you can say this is my view, and then that view is only showing the documents based off of your filtering, right?
So quick
Um,
question, Kevin. Sorry to
sure.
cut you short. Based
Yeah,
on
no
that
worries.
setting, if you, well, I guess this might be the admin, but if you decide to set a view, would it be based on the permissions of the person setting the view? So, for instance, if I say I want to set a view to only see PDFs and
Mhm.
I'm just a simple user, I guess it's a two-part question. If I'm just a contributor, can I set
Mhm.
a view to for myself only? And if I'm admin, do I have to give permissions before a contributor or somebody else like an owner can set views to be able to view for the view to be seen by other people? I don't know if you understand my
Yeah, no, that's
question.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. So by default, I think anyone that has edit capabilities will be able to set their own views minimally. So when you
Okay.
create a view, let's just go to it real quickly. So this is your default view,
Hmm.
all documents view. And here it says, you see the name, you can change the name to the all documents view if you like. But if I create a new view, and then I'll just use a standard view. So this is your typical view, or I can copy the existing view as my starting point.
Hmm.
So I'll just do that. So I'm going to use the all documents view. And then this is what I want to show you. When you create a view, if your permissions allow, you'll have two options: create a personal view or create a
Gotcha.
public view, right? So obviously, if you create the personal view, this view will only be visible for you and accessible by you. And then if you do a public view, then anyone visiting the site, they will be able to drop down, click on the view drop down options, and they'll see your view as an option. Okay.
Yeah.
So if I created a view, let's say Jai view, I don't know if it'll take special characters. So just do Jai view. Also, you can make it the default view
Default
if you
view.
want, again, depending on your permissions. You'll either have these options or you won't based off of your type of permissions. Okay, so this is Jai's view. It's copying what is already on the default, but let's say we want to add some stuff. So these are all the different columns. So if you remember, we talked about metadata.
Hmm.
This is the columns that are currently available in this document library. And so right now, if you remember, it only showed a couple of columns. That's because these are the only ones that were checked off.
Selected, yeah.
So that's right, selected. So we can add a couple, maybe checked out to, created by, Let's do, and I'm just randomly choosing some
Yep.
different
Yep.
columns, um, assuming they might have some content in them. Content type. So if you remember what a content type was, Jai,
Mm-hmm.
let's see. Quick, well, it's a pop quiz. Do you remember what a content type is?
Are you asking me right now?
Yes, I am.
Why?
You're my student, and you represent the world. So if
What?
you don't know that,
That's the biggest mistake. Why would I represent every? I'm just representing me. I'm learning, man.
well,
I
you
think.
represent the novice.
Hold on. No, I represent the novice. You represent the novice.
Oh, okay, my bad.
Big
We're switching
difference.
roles now. Okay, we're switching it up.
Um,
Okay.
I Now that you mentioned it, it's like I almost remembered, but then I forgot. And I'm not being facetious here. I actually did remember, and then I just because I was talking too much, I just forgot what the content type is. But I know you're gonna
Okay.
make fun of me anyway, so
I'll explain it a little bit later. I'll
yeah,
explain it
okay.
because I have
I'll
it
probably
here.
remember
I'll
before then.
remember it.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So
Doesn't
we're just
believe
gonna
me.
add some. I don't believe it. It's all good. So we're gonna add some columns in this new view called Jai's view.
Okay.
And then we also can do certain sorting. We can sort in a different way. So by default, it sorts by name. We can sort by ID, item record, etc., etc. And then we can filter. So if we wanted to just only have, if we had like title equals a certain thing or contains a certain character or information, we can filter on that. If we had some um, certain types of columns that were like yes and no or values in those columns, we can set and filter by that as well. But because we don't have that just yet, we'll just leave it as show all items in this view. And there's some more granular stuff. We're not going to get too much into it, but you can group by. So we can group by certain types of metadata or columns. So group by ID, group by created by. So if there's multiple people that created documents, it would now group everything by their
Yeah,
name.
I
And then
think I
you can
remember now.
expand.
I think the content type is like when you group stuff. Like you can like I think you were talking about the content type. Is it something you can group like documents or something like that together? Is that is that part of it? Is that it? Or
Close, close.
yeah, okay.
It's more a container. It's a container.
Container,
So
yes, that's the word I'm
yeah,
looking
so
for.
not group,
Container,
but
yeah.
yeah, but a container. It basically it's a bucket where you can put stuff in. So right now, every document in this document library would be considered a document content type. But if I wanted to separate and create reports that are documents too, I can create a copy of the document content type and rename it as report content type. And
Yeah.
then now, when I add a document that is a report to this library, I can classify it or put it in that report container or that content type. So that's basically it. So again, you can totals, you can count, do some counts. You can hide and remove all folders. So SharePoint has that ability. You can just hide all folders and then you can just show all documents. Really great feature. And that's about it. I mean, there's more stuff, but you guys can look at it on your own time. So this is our view. We're just adding some new unique columns and then we
What
click
about
OK.
the position as well? You can flip the position from what you want to see, right?
What do you mean flip position in
So when
terms
you
of
go
what?
back to the metadata, the characteristic of the document type, the document
Hmm.
library, sorry, you see how
Okay.
when you added different columns,
Hmm.
on the right it says position. You can flip the position of what you want to see first. So you can have the
That's true. That's a good
modified at
point.
the end, and you can have name at the beginning. So you can flip the way that it's being seen on the screen at the moment. Yeah.
That's a good point. And I'll go back to it real quickly. So there's two ways to get to the views, that view settings. You can go through, like I just showed you, we went to the gear and then we went to library
Library
settings
settings. Yeah.
and then we scrolled down and went to view. But also, if you notice here, now it says Jai's view. If we click
Mm-hmm.
on this drop down, you're going to see the all documents view, which is the
Mm-hmm.
default view. And as you can see, the columns have changed dynamically.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we go to the new view that we just created, as you can see, it now has the specific type of columns that we also added. And if you ever want to go back to the view and edit it, you don't necessarily need to go to the settings. You can just click on the drop down here, the views drop down, and then just click on, well, real quickly, you can set any view as default if it's not already set the default. And then you could also just click on edit current view. And it'll basically take you right back to the same place.
Gotcha.
And so what Jai was talking about is you can change the position of any column. So this one's the first one. If I wanted to switch these around, I can just literally click on 7, and then it'll switch out 7 and 8. Okay? So yeah, that's good call out, Jai. I missed that part. And then so we click OK. It'll now flip them back or flip them over, and that's pretty much it. So this is the extra columns that we created. And real quickly, content type, if you recall, content type is a container. So what we're showing right now is the folder content type. Because these aren't documents, these are folders. So SharePoint looks at these items all as just folder content types. So if I create a new document though, so let's go into general, and to create a new document in a document library, you have two main ways to create new documents. You could either upload an existing document, so you go to files and then or you can upload a whole folder if you want, and then you could either click new. And then when you click new, what it's going to do is going to bring you a drop down, and then now you have the option of creating a new folder, of course, in addition to the existing folders that you may have. But you could also create a new document, Excel, etc., etc. One thing I want to call out, if you notice, I keep clicking on general. I don't have to do that. I could just create a new document directly within the documents library. If I created it in the general, I'm just creating the document in a folder. That's all. So if you notice, when I click here, now it goes to general, and then the breadcrumb advances, and then I can add a new document here, or I can just add a new document into
The
the
documents
document library directly in
library.
the root. Call it, yeah, think of it like a root. A little quick fun fact, the general is a very special type of folder in document libraries that are attached to teams. So I want to repeat that. The general folder is a very special folder when Teams is attached. So if you ever have a SharePoint site, which most of you probably already do, and it is a newer type of SharePoint site, team site, I recommend you to leave the general alone. Don't delete it, just leave it.
I was just
Because
gonna
when you
ask about
add
that. Yeah.
yeah, because if you ever wanted to at one point add Microsoft Teams to your SharePoint site, your first channel will be the general channel. And every Teams always has an initial channel created. And usually that channel is connected to the general folder. Little tidbit for any of you guys that want to impress your friends, if that knowledge ever comes up in current events, right?
It's valuable knowledge.
Exactly. But moving on, so we're going to create a new live document within SharePoint. So we're not going to upload, we're going to create a new document. So all you got to do, click on new. All right. So once you click on it, it's going to open up, and it's going to open up initially in Word Online. So basically in the browser. If you didn't want it to open up in Word Online, I believe in the library settings, you can set it to automatically open up in the desktop client first, but by default it'll open up in the browser. But also, if you don't want to do and make any changes to the settings, and you still want to open up in the browser, you can always go to editing in the top right corner or close to the top right corner, and then click on open in desktop. And what that will do is it'll then just kind of spawn or open up your desktop version of that app or that Office document or Office application, and then it'll load up whatever you're doing in there.
So Kevin,
Here's another tip. Yeah.
yeah, so maybe this is why you can't have SharePoint as a standalone, because in the event that you wanted to create a new document, you would have to use the other Microsoft tools from the tenant. So like Word, Excel, PowerPoint. If you had to do SharePoint online by itself, maybe they figured that you wouldn't be able to like add documents or create new documents or create new, you can only create folders, which is counterproductive to what you want to use SharePoint for, because you'd want to always want to store documents using the different types of what they call it, types of programs that they have in Microsoft Office Suite. So I'm just thinking, I'm just throwing that out there. Maybe that's a possibility why
Yep,
they don't have it as a standalone.
you're right. However, this is what I Googled. Office web app, now primarily known as Office for Web, are web-based versions of Microsoft Office applications like Word, Excel, PowerPoint. They allow users to work with documents directly in a browser, enable access to these applications from any device, which is supported. What I'm saying is yes and no in your answer. So Office Web App, or OWA, is something separate.
Mm-hmm.
So if you had a, let's say you're on a, if you had a server, like if you had a server that was just running SharePoint on your within your environment. So let's remove the cloud altogether. That was running SharePoint on its own. What you could do is you can install Office Web App. That would
Yep.
integrate with your SharePoint on-prem, like so just no cloud. And then you would then be able to create and open Office applications within SharePoint. So what I'm
Okay.
saying is you're right, but then this has always been something available with SharePoint that was always integrated with SharePoint,
Oh, so
Office
there's a
Web App.
workaround. What you tell me is the workaround, because if you have the SharePoint standalone by itself, it can integrate with the OAuth, which is Outlook Web or Office Web Access, to have the other
That's right.
tools for Office, so that that way, okay, I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying
That's
now.
right. So that's why you're not full. That's why your answer,
Yeah,
your
it's
assumption
not
is not fully
it's
right.
not yeah, yeah. Maybe they canceled
Yeah.
the integration, who knows?
No, no, it is integrated still. What
Okay.
you're seeing, it's hard to explain, but what you're seeing is you're just seeing a seamless integration. So, Office. So, for example, just because you have, so if you have Office Web App integrated with SharePoint, you don't necessarily need to have Office, Microsoft Office deployed to the
Deployed.
desktops. That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay,
Which
gotcha.
is, I think, what you're getting at. You were thinking, oh, it's because, Office was not, no, it's Office Web App, which is a thin client that has always been available as an integration component to SharePoint even before the cloud. So that's what you're actually interacting with here, Office Web App, and then when you click
Yes.
on here,
And you
you're
in
you're
the
basically
desktop. Yes. Okay.
that's right,
Okay.
that's right.
Okay.
So they're separate. Again, history, little history. So another thing that's a really great tidbit. A lot of times our clients they run into issues where they'll download a document from SharePoint, and then they know that SharePoint has this thing called sync. It'll automatically sync. There's also, it's actually called co-authoring. Again, we'll get into that a little bit later. What happens is people will download the document independent of SharePoint, they'll edit it, and then they'll be frustrated because it's saved back to their local. That's what happens when you download something off of SharePoint without using SharePoint. So just basically downloading.
Mm,
If you do this, if you open up your document and then you click on open in desktop, what you'll do is you'll open it up in the client, which is on your local, but it'll sync automatically
to the
back to
thing client.
SharePoint.
Okay.
So you got to always remember that. If you do not open it up this way, your document, if you download it any other way, it may not sync back to SharePoint. Now, you could always do it if you download it independently, but you'll have to go to File and then Save As, and then point it back to the SharePoint location where you want it to save to.
So
If
how
you
can you
download it,
download independently? Basically, it's just basically open it in file, save as. Is that how you download independently?
that's right. So just there you go, download, right?
Okay. Okay.
So if you just download like this, it may not automatically save back to SharePoint because think about it, it doesn't know where to save it to because you just download it locally.
Yeah, because you could.
But
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
you open it up and then open in the desktop from here, it will open up in the
Sync.
client on your desktop and it'll automatically sync back. Okay, just a little tidbit. So back to our regular scheduled program. a lot of stuff we're covering. I don't think we're gonna get to list today, Jai, to be honest with you.
No worries.
So a couple of things here. So we're in the web version. Another thing to remember, the web version is never as powerful as the thick version. For simplicity, I'm going to call it the thick version, basically the desktop version. I think it's easier for me to say that. So the thick version. So, but immediately what's going to happen once you create or you create from you click new and create the document, whatever it be, Excel, Word, or whatever, what's going to happen, a couple of things happen in the background. SharePoint is going to immediately save and create the document for you. The document's going to be called document, and then it's going to immediately save into the location where you open the document from. And how you know is if you go to the top left corner, close to the corner here, you're going to see a drop down. Click on that drop down, and this is how you know where it's saved. So KevJai, shared documents. And then I could always look at the version history and stuff. If I wanted to go back to SharePoint, this is my best way to get to it. Just click on Share Documents, and it'll take me back to SharePoint. And as you can see, or my document library, and as you can see, here's the new document that it just created automatically once I clicked on New. If I want to rename this document, I could either rename it from here, click on the three dots or the ellipsis, and then click on Rename, or I can go into the document again, and then go to the top left corner here and then rename it to something a little bit more interesting. Right? Jai's report.
I thought you were gonna name it something a little bit more interesting. I thought that was the name you were gonna give it.
That's not interesting. Yes, I'm not that literal, Jai. I'm not that
No,
literal.
it was funny. Yeah.
Jai, I'm gonna name it something more interesting. Something interesting. Yeah, I get it. I get that. Everybody's laughing. Ha ha ha, Jai. Everyone's laughing. Trying to get me back for the Novice thing. I get it. I get it.
It's Novice.
All right, so that's how you edit a document. Again, you can see your location with the breadcrumb. You can go to version history. Interestingly enough, this version history is different from the version history in SharePoint. This version history is more predicated on well, it's the same, but this version history will actually show you your changes. So if I had several changes, I can go back to it and it would kind of show me my changes here, which is pretty cool. The SharePoint version history, it won't do any of that. So little
What
interesting
will they
thing.
show you? So what's the difference then? Just curious.
There's no real difference. Is that I look at it as this one. This one's more visual, and the one in SharePoint is not visual, just for the simplicity.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
So real since I brought it up.
Yeah, I
So
was
if I
just
go
gonna
to the
say, so
version
let's see
history
this one.
here,
Yeah.
see, it's just textual, right? That's all. It's pretty boring versus the one, if you opened it up in the browser or opened it up in Word, it would show you your changes.
Okay,
I'm pretty
fair
sure.
enough. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. So let's do some changes real quickly. So another thing to remember, when you're using the Word version, any changes you make, any keystrokes, any text, it's creating a version every second.
You don't even have to hit save. Just
That's right. There's no save. And as you can see, it'll constantly save. So if you watch, as I'm typing, if you watch up here, you're going to see this green checkbox disappear, reappear, disappear. And the reason being is that it's syncing back to SharePoint constantly. And then when it completes the sync, it'll show a green check mark.
are you trying to think of something? I knew you were gonna go there.
All right, so if you were not focusing on me typing and you're looking in the corner, you would have seen it changing. But anyways, so if we go back, if we go back here, so let's go back to SharePoint. Let's take a look at our version history. We click here, version history. Here we go. Here is our other copy, right? But that's all we can see. So we couldn't really see what we're doing. We could view it, but when we view it, we just be downloading an instance of that version, right? Which is always kind of annoying. But if we go into the document And then if we click here and then go to version history, here you can see this one, and it should be a bit different. And there you go. So yeah, again, nothing great, but imagine you got to kind of use your imagination.
For
If
sure,
let's
for
say, for
sure.
example, this document had a table, and then in this version you remove the table, now you can actually see the difference, right? Versus in SharePoint, you can't, all you could see is just 2.1, 2.1.0, 2.0. But at least here now you can actually see, and then you can save it as well, download it, just like what you could do in SharePoint. But you have the visual option here.
And you have the three dotted lines where you can actually, like the three dotted lines to the right of it, where it says just now.
Yeah, it just gives you an option to download.
Gotcha.
You can just download a copy, or if it's not the most recent, you could also just restore. So you could do the same thing in SharePoint. You can restore. So just a little tidbit, if you're ever looking for a version history, again, this only works with Word or Office-based documents. I don't believe, because again, this is Office web app that you're using, and it's just kind of showing the history because the history exists in SharePoint. And obviously, Microsoft is tightly coupled with their own applications. So in a PDF, for example, I don't know if this would work, but I don't think there's an editor for PDF that's native like this, like how Office web app is. Okay, so just a little tidbit there. So just wanted to kind of show that. So we've opened up the document, and it opens up by default in the library or the location where you opened it up from. If I ever wanted to move this document, really easy in SharePoint, you could just kind of drag it. I can just drag it to wherever I want,
Any folder.
and then that's it. It's now sitting in this library. If I want, if I don't want to drag, I don't know why you wouldn't want to drag, I could
Can
use
move
the
it.
move options. So you have a couple options up here. There's a move to, there's also a copy to. Where is the copy to? Copy to. So this will create a copy of the document, or if I want, I can move it. And this way is a little bit more cumbersome, but I could just move it this way if I want to put it back. So here's my breadcrumb. This is where I'm currently at. If I want to bring it back here, back to the root, just click on the breadcrumb, go to the root, and then click on move here. And then in a couple of minutes, it should be gone from here. And then now it's right back where I originally had it. So that's pretty much it. We have to stop here. There's so much more to cover. There's a lot more we're going to cover. We're going to go over metadata. We're going to go over creating columns. You know, there's so many options here, some really amazing stuff we're going to cover, but we have to stop it here
And we're
because
still in the document library.
that's right. Jai has to go to bed, right? So I'm
Yes,
good.
I have
Jai is
I have a curfew.
exactly.
Remember,
Because he's British and all, you know what I mean?
Oh, we're not gonna let this go, are we? It's all
All
good,
right,
man.
so we learned a lot, everybody. Hopefully you guys found it amazing and fruitful. Again, this is a bit of a theme we're going on for the next couple of weeks for Nerdy Mondays, all about SharePoint, SharePoint training. If you want to learn more, you know, we have a website that we're going to provide the link to. We have also a section where you can ask us if there's any type of training you want us to do, technical or oriented. We'll be happy to do that training. Just sign up. If we get enough votes, we'll probably do the training for that particular item. So stay tuned for that stuff. But once again, it's been a pleasure. Hope you guys learned a lot. Hope you found it fruitful, informational, entertaining. Again, thank you. Nerdy Mondays, and have a good one.
Have a good one, guys.